Appreciate it. So jumping back into a little bit about Perplexity, we are an AI-powered answer engine. We're built out really to enable people to feed off their curiosity, ask as many questions as they'd like, and get answers in the most efficient way possible. So as opposed to what we're used to with the Google search era of asking a question, getting 10 blue links, some sponsored ads. Instead, what we've done is powered or built our own search engine, which is going out and indexing the web when we ask any question within our Ask Anything bar here, gathering the appropriate sources for that question to then push to LLMs, which we have multiple choices of, which is a differentiator within the industry for Perplexity, where we partner with Anthropic, OpenAI, Google, XAI, and then have some reasoning models as well, which we'll get into. Which then enables that search motion to be produced in a natural language format with the answer at your fingertips, and enabling you to then dive down the knowledge rabbit hole as quickly as possible. A couple items on kind of our product suite is many of you may be familiar with our consumer product. So what you can go to if you go to our website, perplexity.com or perplexity.ai, to just ask questions either via the free version or the pro subscription, which has added functionality and features to it. What we're looking at here today is the Enterprise Pro version, which a couple items of differentiation to start out. One, security. So we don't train on enterprise client data. There's also the ability to enable single sign-on. You have added controls for admin within your organization to add levels of security based on company policy, so very enterprise friendly. And then secondly is the options of data sources. So something we're really excited about and that we've started rolling out this year and will continue to roll out is the mix of data sources that we're incorporating within the Enterprise Pro platform. First and foremost, web, what we're known for, what we're great at, industry leaders at today. Secondly, internal data, so the ability to upload files to Perplexity to then index internal documents, internal files in addition to web. Also, what we've rolled out is what we were calling app connectors. So you can see here my files. If I toggle this on, this is pulling from files that I've synced from my own Google Drive. So what's available today, Google Drive, SharePoint, OneDrive, Dropbox, Box, and many more of those to come. We're very excited about releasing as many of these app connectors as possible so that enterprise users have the functionality to search across web, search across internal databases, and third-party proprietary data sets, which you can see here. There's an option to toggle on Crunchbase as a source. That we have released Crunchbase, FactSet from both the more finance or startup focus lens from an industry perspective. And then also we're releasing a connector with Wiley, which is one of the largest textbook publishers in the world. So really trying to marry three primary data sets together so that knowledge workers have everything at their fingertips to get the answers they're looking for on a day-to-day basis. So without further ado, I know what we've got today is a lot of sales and business development individuals on the line. So let's jump into the product and get some use cases on the board here. So if we're just looking at executing a query within Perplexity, there are really three different levels of a query that you can input within the system. So first would be this option for best or choosing one of the frontier models or LLMs. This would be what I call level one. So if we execute this query, it's going to execute a quick search of and indexing appropriate sources on the web. Core to our functionality is sources popping up first and foremost. And then within the output itself, as you can see here, quickly gathering information, giving you the output in a natural language format, very easy to digest with inline citations where you can actually click into these sources to access where the information lives. Another really cool feature that minimizes hallucinations from the perspective of Perplexity is you can actually highlight sections of the output and check the sources live. So you can actually see exactly where that information is coming from the web sources that we're indexing. So this is very core functionality of Perplexity, what many users will interact with our platform on a consumer and enterprise basis on a day-to-day level. You can see here at the end of the output, down below, there's a couple different options. And you can see how thorough this is for a very quickly executed query. You can share this with others, and we'll be sharing threads as well as spaces from the webinar today. You can export these in PDF, Markdown, or Word doc. You can also choose a different model to rewrite this if you want to compare, contrast what the different LLMs in the market that we have to offer are producing from an output perspective. And then down below, there's always the option to click on one of these related questions that's powered by Perplexity. And you can also ask anything down below, related or unrelated. So as mentioned, that would be kind of our level 1 query. Level 2 might be something that is a little bit more in depth. Maybe we're looking for information. Maybe we're also looking for that information to then build a chart, table, maybe bring some analysis to the table on that, findings, or any kind of multi-step, multi-stage query where we're going to leverage one of these reasoning models, which if I pull up a reasoning example here, something like, what are the most common objections prospects raise when considering generative AI products? For each objection, provide effective counters and supporting evidence to overcome these concerns. So when we're looking at this query, that's more of a 2-3 part query. We're asking for multiple deliverables. Reasoning queries are great for this option, where if you pull up this task, you'll see that the AI is actually guiding you through its thought process and then searching through different groups of sources, breaking down the different intentions that are gathered with the input itself to then think and reason behind what might be the most effective output and highest quality answer to provide to the user. Where then you get a little bit more robust from the perspective of the output, where we're breaking down the objections here. We're seeing that the industry is seeing data privacy and security risks as an example objection.
Really quickly, someone was asking for sources of like, how do we know which are the best sources for the type of question that we're asking and they're up to date and relevant?
Yeah, great question. I think high level, it's through our own models that we've built out within our proprietary search engine. So for example, we've built out a 50-point ranking algorithm that goes through our web index and then really emphasizes trustworthiness, credibility within the sources so that information is accurate, leaning on the most trusted sources within that the web has to offer. And then you can see here those sources presented where then you can click into these. But a lot of that is built on the kind of behind the curtains of our search engine. And a lot of that is also influenced by our users. So understanding with feedback items, feedback loop, like whether this input or output was helpful, not helpful, and then providing reasonings for our team. We very strongly are reliant on our users to provide us feedback with how to build the better product with the highest quality answers possible, because that is the goal of ours at Perplexity, is to provide the highest quality answers that an answer engine has. So as you can see here, scrolling down, a couple different or several different objections with the kind of summary, counter, and then evidence backed to address those objections. So very helpful if you're approaching a particular prospect or industry that you want to focus on what might be common objections, so you can either practice or build a call script around it to then handle those objections live. So that would be an example of a reasoning query. If we take this one level further, you can see this research option. The research queries are going to go into even more depth with an input or an output within Perplexity. So instead of maybe taking seconds or a minute to produce the output itself, the research queries might think on this for 3, 5, 10, anywhere to 30 minutes, where it might look through hundreds of sources as opposed to 10 or 20. And then it may have what we saw with different tasks, on the reasoning query, this may end up being tens of tasks here. So an example that I've provided for a deep research query is provide a detailed analysis of emerging trends in the retail industry over the past quarter. Include market size projections, key players' strategic moves, regulatory developments, and technology adoption patterns. Highlight specific opportunities for AI in this evolving landscape. As you can see, and as mentioned earlier, this has gone through 170 different sources and up to 40 tasks where it's thinking through each of these items. It's looking for the correct sources. It's breaking down the input by each of the different intentions that the user may have and all the different steps or desired information sections that we're looking for in the output, and then it produces that output in more of a report-like deliverable. So you can see here emerging trends in the retail industry broken down by the sections. You can see here that a table was produced. Any tables, charts, graphs that are built out through Perplexity, you can also see that you can download those.
Also, if you get an answer and if you want it in a table, you can prompt Perplexity to put it in a table. That's always been really helpful.
Yep, always. And if that's a follow-up question, you can say, "Hey, I want this information in a table or a chart, or take this this information from that output and put it into a chart." Very flexible on how we can produce the outputs for you. So as you can see, very in-depth report that we produced within a matter of minutes that I would say from my own experience, if I'm looking at either in-depth industry analysis or in-depth prospect analysis for larger enterprise accounts, or I'm researching different tools or strategies to address sales in general, these deep research queries have saved me half a day, if not a full day of work on being able to produce this information, input or set the input within Perplexity, let it work, go work on other items, come back to it within 15-20 minutes. I get a very detailed report. Awesome. So next item that I'll want to cover within Perplexity's functionality is what we call pages. So if I take, for example, this deep research query and I want to make it a little bit more report-like, a more marketing aesthetic, I can convert this to what we call a page. And I've produced an example page here that we can look through together. So I queried Perplexity asking for innovative AI partnership campaigns for partnership and sales teams to potentially evaluate that may be most effective in today's landscape. So as you can see here, when I publish this page, it comes across as a unique web page that I can then share internally or externally if that's available within your enterprise workspace. If we scroll down here, you can see that there are different sections within the page, very detailed on the different strategies that Perplexity had come up with. So personalized knowledge campaigns, one idea for partnerships, industry expert collaborations. Each of these sections, as you can see, will have the campaign structure, potential partners, consumer behavior alignment, and then metrics that you can check in on to measure success within these campaigns. Educational AI initiatives, and multimodal search partnerships. If I were to go ahead and edit this page, this shows the real customization that you can build out within these pages. So first and foremost, if you want to change the format or structure of these pages, you can do so. So if I want to have this information structured in a table, or I want it in narrative paragraph format, I want to add some images. I could also detail whether this is a concise answer or I want more verbiage built into each of these sections. You can also, as seen below, add any sections. And then if we scroll all the way up to the top, you can change the layout. You can add header images. You can also edit to rewrite any introduction within these pages as well. So this might be something that I'm producing to present something cross-functionally. Like I want to present to the marketing team an idea that I have. I want to present to the customer success team an idea that I have, or product team, etc. Anything that you're also producing, maybe externally, this could be shared as well. So very powerful to be able to convert your queries that you want to build into more report-like functionality aesthetic into a Perplexity page. And then, as mentioned, you can share this within the organization itself, or choose to share this publicly outside of the organization if your security team enables that within the controls available to them within the admin panel. Awesome. So next, we're going to move to my favorite features within Perplexity Enterprise Pro, which is what we call spaces. And we're going to be sharing all of these example spaces with the broader audience as a follow-up. But spaces really are dedicated arenas that you can build focused search within. So I think primarily what we see spaces filtering down into are three main buckets of use cases. So first, it might be a custom answer engine. So you're building out a specific instructions within this space to then produce a structured output for you in a template that you're going to revisit on a daily or weekly, monthly, quarterly basis, etc. A second would be a collaborative tool. So you could invite team members. Your team members then can all upload relevant files, folders within your internal databases, also connect to certain links. And you can really use these spaces as a collaborative tool to understand what your team members or coworkers are asking within a particular topic, or you're focusing cross-functionally on a particular client or campaign, etc. And then thirdly, really is a research assistant. So being able to leverage the power of Perplexity to focus in on a research topic, whether that be an industry or, in this example, competitive intelligence, client intelligence, prospect research, to be able to build these spaces to go really narrow, in depth on a particular topic. So let's dive into a couple of these here. First, I'll start out with this team knowledge center that I built out. So the use case for this space might be I've invited, and you can see here up top within each space, you can choose to invite team members. I've invited some of my team members to this space so they can interact with it. You can also choose if this is shareable and viewed between the owner and then those that they invite. You can also make this organization viewable so that anyone within your Enterprise Pro workspace can see this if they have the link, and also shareable, which will make all of these shareable so that all of you can interact with these spaces and take some of these custom builds and implement them into your Perplexity workspace. Other items to note within each space here. So first and foremost, you can create custom instructions, which we'll get to on other spaces here. Second, you can upload and connect certain files, folders to dedicated spaces. So in this case, when I'm creating a team knowledge center where I want our enterprise growth team at Perplexity to leverage information either via local files that I can upload. So you can see here our standard pitch deck. I can connect files from our Google Drive, business team docs, onboarding and setup guides, the different collateral that Jenny has been amazing in preparing for us. And then also you can share and show links. So really creating your own web index from the broader web so that the space will prioritize or oftentimes only look at the dedicated links that are within the space. So really enabling focus here. A couple example queries that we can walk through within this particular space where we're going to be only looking at the files and links that are associated. If you turn off all other sources within a space, you can see here up top within this source indicator that the search will only include the context that's available within the space itself. If I executed a query like, okay, I just signed on a new client from Perplexity Enterprise Pro, what are the admin features that I can share that are available within the platform for the initial admin and my champion that I've been working with throughout the sales cycle? You can see here that we're sourcing from internal data. We're sourcing from the information that I've pulled in from our Google Drive to then prepare the output, which also references those Google Drive pages here, and then gives me the answer in a clear, concise manner that I could even copy and paste and send this over directly to the client.
Can you share a little bit about like what if you sourced a file that I don't have access to?
Yeah, great question, Jenny. So the way that we implement our app connectors is that if you are connecting from a like global perspective within your entire Enterprise Pro workspace, any or you're looking to sync any files and folders from your Google Drive, SharePoint, or OneDrive, you only have visibility into the documents that you have permission to view. So that, from a security standpoint, prevents any users from seeing or accessing any documents, whether they be confidential or secure, or not relevant to a particular team member. It prevents them from being able to access that information that they shouldn't have visibility into. I can see that if I click into one of these sources, I will have visibility into it because I have that view, or I have this available within my Google Drive. But if, for example, Jenny were to go into this query and not have access to one of these documents, it would pull up with that similar or the same kind of gate of permissions that you typically see within a Google Drive or a Microsoft SharePoint, where it says you do not have access to view this document, and you can request access, but those permissions will stay in place. So from a security standpoint, we want to make sure that when team members are uploading files, no sensitive data is shared across members within Enterprise Pro that shouldn't have access to it.
Nice. I'm curious to know, I'm gonna launch another poll here. Which ones are you guys most excited to dive into in terms of spaces? I know I saw someone who wanted an RFP engine.
It's like
Oh,
pretty
they're
neck and
pretty
neck here.
close. And I'm actually surprised. I don't know if everyone can see the live answers, but I'm surprised quota calculator wasn't as popular of one. Currently, competitive intelligence and prospect research are in the lead.
Cool.
Let's see. I'll give it a few, just a few more seconds. All right, I think we're gonna go for, because competitive and client intelligence are pretty neck and neck, maybe we can jump into the different direct instructions, but
Yeah,
a lot of love for prospect research as well as RFP engine.
cool. Well, let's start with prospect research to start out, and then we can go RFP engine and then one of the either client or competitive intelligence.
Nice.
So let's jump back here. If I jump into the prospect research space, I think what's really cool about these spaces is the ability to build out custom instructions or pre-prompts that the AI will take into consideration every time you're executing an input within this space. So I build out these spaces quite frequently. I use a similar prospect research space for almost every single call that I join with a new prospect. And you can see here within the instructions, you can get very in-depth, very robust. So you can give the AI a persona. You can also guide it in the right direction of exactly what template you want each output to be structured in. And as you can see, this first part is more from an informational. So I want all of this information for each of the companies or prospects that I'm looking to gather this research on. And then lastly, you can guide the AI to structure the output in exactly how you want it to look and feel, which you can see here. This is what I want with a prospect intelligence report for any query that I'm executing. So as mentioned, we'll share all of these spaces and instructions. And just to give you an idea of what that will produce here, we can go in and give an example of, hey, we're looking for, I'm speaking to Yamaha soon, and I want to understand everything that there is to know from a high level perspective on the company prior to talking to them. as you can tell from the instructions that we just pulled up, it's structuring it in that prospect intelligence report that we guided it, and then breaking down each of those sections. So executive summary, company overview, decision makers, financial snapshot, technology landscape, strategic opportunities, engagement strategy. So as you can see, very robust and extremely in-depth and powerful to be able to build these spaces and exactly what type of information you're looking to gather and the type of output or the template that is most helpful for you to follow up on that information, whatever that may be, whatever the focus may be within this space.
I remember the days where I would spend hours pulling this information myself when I was prepping for a client or a customer conversation.
You and I both. I mean, when you're going to different websites, you're looking for press releases, you're looking at LinkedIn, you're looking at, internal information. It used to take me anywhere from, depending on how in depth I wanted to get, minimum 30 minutes, maybe an hour to prepare really fully for an upcoming call for a important large prospect, and you can literally execute this within a matter of a minute, and it gives you all of this information to digest and then really spend the bulk of your time of rest of preparation to either work on more strategic initiatives, go out and prospect more. It really frees up the time off from manual work, and that's really what I've gotten the most out of Perplexity Enterprise Pro. Is what used to take me hours, if not days. Like for example, like within deep research query, if I'm looking to like really get uh, a really in-depth understanding on a particular industry or trends or a prospect, that used to take me anywhere from a half day to a full day to get really the level of information that I felt comfortable with going into a call or conversation. Now with the population of a space, it literally happens within minutes, which has been an incredible value add to saving time, and then also just enabling me to work on kind of more creative strategic ideas on how to build a larger pipeline or build stronger relationship with prospects, or you know uh, cross functionally collaborate on marketing information, on product information. um,
I
so
think what would be interesting too is if you maybe are dedicated to a specific vertical or a territory, maybe you can ask your product marketer or your research team, like, hey, do you have any win-loss reports on this industry? And that can also help inform, like, hey, can you build a company profile and suggest things that I should be bringing up in the conversation based on conversations like previous deals?
awesome. Let's get through a couple more of these spaces before we open up to Q&A. So I'll jump into, I know RFP engine was top of mind for many. So if you're getting, and this is kind of a use case to show templatization for the multitude of different either deliverables or requests that you might get from a sales or business development perspective. RFPs, similarly for mutual action plans, security questionnaires, proposals, etc., where you can then build out within the custom instructions an objective. In this case, we've guided the AI to fill out as much of the RFP as possible, and then given guidance around how Perplexity should think about gathering the information, structuring the answers, when the AI can't find relevant information, making that clear so we can then follow up internally, um, special considerations, and then details on what we want the final output to look like as well. Um, in addition, what I've done within this RFP engine space is synced, a multitude of files, and then also provided links that are relevant to the types of information that we're populating within the RFPs on an ongoing basis. So this may be a link to your security documentation, to your business detail, your practices, your policies, etc., your product information, collateral. So building out as robust of a knowledge base is helpful to guide to make sure the AI is sourcing or gathering or pointing to all relevant information necessary to answer these questions. So then if I populate either via attachment or via the query itself, the information that I want to provide or the information that I'm supposed to answer within the RFP, you can do so. You can see that it's sourcing 49 different sources, all from internal information. I used a reasoning query on this, so you can see that there's 71 tasks going through and looking for all of this information very in depth, and then providing that information down below where there is going to be some information gaps as guided, where it doesn't have the required information needed. But then it's going to fill out the majority of that RFP that we're looking to populate. And really, the only limitation here would be on the information that you sync to Perplexity that then the AI can go and gather. So this is just a limitation of some of the internal data that we don't have on hand via collateral that can answer some of this information that's providing the information gaps. And if I scroll all the way down here, after everything has been answered, you can see how thorough and robust this is and how powerful this can be for any sort of templated proposal, RFP, mutual action plan that you're producing. Then I could also ask in a follow-up question, okay, now that we've filled out all the information and I can then export that information into a PDF or Word doc to then format it in however I'd like, I can then compile all of the information gap questions to then export separately and gather these and then follow up internally, either finding the different information that I didn't know to sync, or syncing with certain colleagues, coworkers to gather this information to fully finalize the RFP itself. Cool. Let's do one of these now. Let's jump into client intelligence. So in this case, what we've done is provided instructions that the AI will act as a strategic client advisor with data that's been integrated over from CRM exports to then import or sync through Google Drive in this scenario, and then giving it instructions on how to focus on the type of data, how to really think about how to structure client tiers, client health, and then connecting relevant files, where in this case, what I did was built out a bunch of fictitious client information and details so that we could execute these types of queries. So I'll walk through all three of these here just very quickly. So example of the power that this could bring to the table: identify potential referral opportunities by finding clients with a health score above 85, NPS scores above 9, and who have adopted at least 4 advanced features in the last 6 months. You can see from the sources, it's gathering from the information that I've uploaded based on our clients or fictitious clients within this space. And then it provides you with those clients and then the information requested for those clients to then reach out to find the most appropriate referral, or to then go to the internal point of contact to then set this referral up.
Nice. Maybe let's quickly jump into competitive intelligence space
Sure.
just to see the instructions. And we will share these spaces and instructions with the with everyone here to
So
ask.
similarly built out like this, I think for this example, I took a like AI sales tool as the product that we're selling and building out this competitive intelligence space for. We're then built out competitive intelligence sample information to then show the instructions, simplified instructions here, but all the necessary information to then guide the inputs and deliverables that you're looking for from a competitive landscape exist with the ability to search through the files that are connected. So some examples here, like compare our AI sales tool against Sales Pro, in this case, fictitious AI sales tool, fictitious company here. So then providing that information, searching through like battle cards that were uploaded, press releases, collateral from competitors that have kind of filtered their way to us, where then it provides you that information down below. It built out a table naturally or unprompted. And keep in mind, as Jenny mentioned earlier, you can always guide as a follow-up for Perplexity to then, hey, convert this information to a table or graph, etc.
And then I saw around 55 files for this space. What's the max amount of files you can upload into a space?
So I believe at the moment you can upload up to 5,000 files per repository, so per space. But if there's a need to increase that amount, we'll take that on a case by case basis. And that number is increasing get as these app connectors become more mature. It's been incredible. We released the first round of these app connectors earlier this year. We've already gone through a couple other additions uh, to the applications that are available to connect to your Perplexity instance, and there are many, many more to come throughout the rest of the calendar year. So it's one of the most exciting things we have on the roadmap for the product.
Notion might be next. I don't know if my
Notion,
product
Gmail, Google Calendar, Outlook,
manager
Teams. Yeah, a lot
love
of
me for
really, really
sharing that,
exciting.
but that would be exciting, especially for those who collaborate a lot on Notion. Um, and I think like if there are things I saw a lot of Salesforce um being requested to connect. We
Yep.
unfortunately don't connect with Salesforce right now, but if you're curious, if you maybe put in the chat if there are any specific apps you want us to integrate with. HubSpot, unfortunately not, but please do let us know. Uh, I'm glad Notion is exciting. Um, Slack, yes, that's coming up. Same with Teams.
And CRMs are on the roadmap. So Salesforce, HubSpot, by far the most frequent that we hear. I think right now it's slotted for kind of the second half of the year, but I know that that's a very common request and popular request. So it's duly noted, especially across our clientele as well. So I know I personally will be extremely excited when I can test out the Salesforce integration.
And someone just asked for Box. Box and
Box
Dropbox
is
was
live.
just
Yep.
released 2 weeks ago, so feel free to connect there.
Yeah, maybe this is a good kind of last step to then look at the
All the connectors.
settings. So this is the admin settings within Perplexity, where you can, if you are an admin within your workspace, you can manage your organization. You can set up single sign-on. You can add new members, and then here are the available connectors today. So FactSet, a third-party data set that you can enable if you're a client of theirs, but then more broadly, Google Drive, OneDrive, SharePoint, Box, and Dropbox. And then you can connect your LinkedIn to Perplexity as well.
A lot of folks were asking, what's the biggest difference between Enterprise Pro and Perplexity Pro? Uh, can you get a bit of an overview primarily on our security features? And then I know we just talked about our connectors, but primarily on the security piece would be great.
Yeah, for sure. So the first and foremost, I think what when we were thinking about building out the enterprise product a little over a year ago, the number one item requested is not to train on enterprise data. So that is table stakes. That's item number one, biggest differentiator between our consumer platform and so Perplexity Pro and Perplexity Enterprise Pro. We won't train on any enterprise client data. Other security functionality that's available or data privacy. And we're continuing to increase or add to these security functionalities, as days go on. But first and foremost, I would say single sign-on is available to enable or request. You can control your user base. So instead of Perplexity Pro, which has just individual licenses, within Perplexity Enterprise Pro, you have a workspace where admin can control and invite new users. And then admin can also control added security functionality for those users within a singular workspace as opposed to individual licenses, primarily around the ability. So what we're going to be able to do with you all today is share all of the information, share all of these spaces. But if your company wants to protect the information that your users are asking within Perplexity, you can turn off the ability to share anything outside of the workspace. We recently released the ability to support audit log functionality so that admin can see from a security standpoint what users are asking within Perplexity, and then many other security items that are exciting on a go-forward basis. I'd say the other major differentiator from Perplexity Pro to Enterprise Pro is at the moment connectors as a whole, but down the line it's access to the full suite of app connectors that are available for and primarily focused towards the enterprise or organizational use cases. So like think CRMs, think business intelligence tools, ticketing systems, you name it. I mean, we're looking to build as many of these connectors as possible and as valuable to our clients. So the full suite of those connectors will be always be available within the Enterprise Pro platform.